Um, let's see here. Yes, I am starting a live video. That's great. So we're back on Instagram. That's all I can say. Welcome, everyone. It's Career Happy Hour, 3 o'clock Pacific time. Every Friday, I will be here to help support you advancing your career. So this is a career advancement session, and we'll have an opportunity, all of us, to make contributions. And so this is something I've now done, I think, for several years. And for those of you who've been around, likely know the drill, that this is a live coaching platform. And yes, you have the opportunity to join me right now for free coaching live on the spot. If that's something you're interested in, click the link in the description. For folks on Instagram, you would just hit the little button on there to join, and we can do it that way. And hopefully the audio will work, because I'm going to try today for the first time utilizing the audio from my speakers instead of from the headphones. So I'm hopeful that this will work. This little experiment that we're doing here each Friday. I'm looking to expand our reach. And so if you're interested, use the link I've put in the description. I make sure that I put that over on LinkedIn as well. Here we go. I just need to get to the live stream that we have on LinkedIn, because for whatever reason, LinkedIn does not allow us to put those links from Restream into LinkedIn. So that's just the way it is, I suppose. For those of you who maybe want to join us that are on Instagram, and you want to join us in a live platform where most of us are living, and you want to connect with us, best way to do that is on LinkedIn. You can find that link in my bio. There is a link there for you to get to the LinkedIn profile. That said, if you're on LinkedIn, just go ahead and put your LinkedIn profile in the chat. This is an opportunity for each one of us to support each other through this platform of Career Happy Hour. And for those who don't know me, I'm Andrew Beach. I am a teacher of self-education. I help professionals like you communicate their value to find greater opportunities faster, and really to feel good about it. That's through a pragmatic process of branding, planning, and effective networking. The 3 tools in my 3 Steps to Career Success program, which, if you're interested in that, there, of course, is a link in the description to go after the application for coaching. So if that's something you're interested in, that's not why I'm here. I'm, of course, representing my own views and none of the views that any organization I'm affiliated with. So now that we have that out of the way, you can join me for free coaching, and it is free and it is live. It is Friday, August 26, 2022. It's 3:05 p.m. as we record this thing. So that if you're coming from the replay, that's great. Put your comments in there. I monitor the chat and the replay comments. So go ahead and put your questions, your comments, anything that you want to share, put it in the comments. That's perfectly fine, and we can do that. Now, you can reach me again on LinkedIn. All of my channel, how would you say it? All of my handles are pretty much the same on all social networks, except for YouTube. You'd have to search up YouTube Andrew Beach to find us and the archives of all these videos. So I don't know how many videos I have up there now, but I could probably tell you before the end of the stream. Good to see you, Terry, in the basement lounge. Excellent. Terry is a good advocate for this Career Happy Hour. So please, if you don't know Terry Smith, it's PDX Terry Smith on LinkedIn. So you can find him there. Good to have everybody. The topic today, and we'll get to that in just a second, is one that I've been thinking about, and I think about every year about this time as we're getting ready to go into the 4th quarter and that sort of thing. So if you do have any questions or things like that as we go along, or things you want to share, please go ahead and share that and share this broadcast out with your networks. You can do that on whatever platform you're on. You don't have to do that publicly. You could do that through a private message if you feel that's appropriate, or share it in an email to a friend or a family member that you think might get value from these Friday sessions. Career Happy Hour. You say, hey, have you been to Andrew's Career Happy Hour? Have you been to the Friday sessions with Andrew? I hear this all the time, and it's always always makes me feel kind of good that somebody is actually watching these things and getting value from it. So I appreciate that. So the idea here today is that we're going to talk through an idea about the best time of year to look for work. And that's really what we're focused on here today. And that's the topic of the day. So if you have thoughts around that, please, by all means, know that that's what we're going to talk through today. And if you want to join, again, the link is in the chat or in the description of the video. I'm not sure if that's showing up yet or not, but it should be there. So the idea that I had today was to talk around this concept of when is the best time to search, best time of the year, or sometimes we run through these mental and emotional gymnastics. We try to figure out when is it time now, or when should I go, or when should I stay, should I leave? Right? We go through all of these machinations, right? These discussions in our head or even with our families about the best time to search. Now, what we don't want to do in this particular session is confuse that with should I leave, or should I look outside the organization, or should I look inside, right? What we're talking about here is there's certain times during the year and in your workings, if you're in a job, this is specifically for those folks that are in a job right now and are kind of like, maybe I've been here for a while. I feel like I've accomplished everything I can accomplish. I may not have any more headroom or room for growth at the organization. So you're starting to feel like it's a good time to start searching. And so I'm going to say a couple of things. And the first thing that I want to talk about specifically related to the time of year. And so it's my assumption, in my mind, the mindset that I take is any time is a good time to search. So over and above that, I think if I can find a way to make today the best time to find an opportunity, then I can find opportunities anytime. So that's something to think about. Think about, is today the right day to find an opportunity? And it's not looking for a new job or leaving an organization. Is there an opportunity for me so that I can test the market? Do I know that my value is good? Do I know that I have value outside my organization? Because sometimes if we've been in an organization for a long time, we don't feel like we can go somewhere else because the what we learned at this organization isn't valuable somewhere else. And so we need to work through some of these mindset shifts if we can to make this a more easy process for ourselves. So outside of any time is a great time to find an opportunity. My feeling is the fourth quarter is the absolute best time to look for work or consider this. And not that you're going to leave, and not that you're going to accept a job, or not that you're even going to get an interview, but this is the best time to search. Because think about it, generally speaking, and this isn't in all cases, some people don't have great connections to the holidays. I get that. That's not the prevailing wisdom. But generally speaking, there are a group of people that aren't 100% dedicated to meeting their fourth quarter numbers, that really are focused on the holidays. They're more approachable. They likely are reconnecting with family, and that has a positive, warm feeling to them. There's often more holidays available, and so there's a lot more time off that's taken. And so people are more accessible to you in a personal context. Now, I say that in that way because if you're networking isn't about doing a deal or getting some opportunity or taking from others. Networking is about building relationship and building a productive relationship on a foundation of trust. And I know that sounds oversymptomatic, or maybe even like a bridge too far for many people, but really it's not a bridge too far to start networking now for opportunities, say first quarter of next year or first half of next year. You have something in the pipeline, a relationship that you're building is going to generate opportunity for you. And so what you do today is going to bear fruit for you 90 days to 6 months from now. Why? Because that's how long it takes companies to make, a lot of them, to make strategic decisions. Fourth quarter is also an opportunity for many organizations that run their fiscal year in congruence with the calendar year, that, hey, fourth quarter, we're going to hit those numbers, and we're also prepping for next year. So the next fiscal year planning is what? Starting now. A lot of those conversations are being had, groundwork is being laid. This is a good time to search and influence those decisions, those budgets. The people that are involved in those, again, are still under those same feelings during the holidays. And so we just need to be sensitive to whatever their feelings about the holidays might be. And then, we can have those conversations, and it's not about, nailing down an opportunity or being overly expressive about our capabilities. No, it's about establishing rapport. It's about reconnecting with people you may have grown apart from. Let's just put it that way. And you have a realization that, this is a good time to reconnect. We've just come through a difficult pandemic. We're going into the holidays. People are traveling again for the first time, maybe in 3 or 4 years or more. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to reconnect with people that you may have lost touch with. And that's something you can be deliberate about. Now, is everybody going to say yes? No, we don't presume that everybody will say yes. But if you do need some support for how to network and some steps you can take, I have a lot of resources. You can just send me a direct message or hit my website or my podcast. I've got to get that back up and running. There was a situation where all the files for my podcast went awry. And so I have on my to-do list to get those ironed out, and that's a work in progress. But there is a podcast that I have, and there is a download from the podcast called The Anatomy of a Networking Conversation. And I think it's really helpful to me and a lot of individuals that I've come across that don't really know networking, although it is supposed to be informal and social, can have a framework to be successful. And that's what we're looking for, is a framework. Many people know they should network, but many people just don't know how. They don't know how to network or how to build relationships in that way without thinking about their own needs. It's hard. It's hard to build that skill. And so that's the other thing. Now, there are some influences. Even in the fourth quarter, you have to be aware of things that might be driving you to look. And some of those things might be a merger or acquisition. So mergers, acquisitions, that sort of thing is an opportunity for the organization to say, wow, we've got duplicated resources. It's time for us to maybe relieve ourselves of some of these duplicate labor, the duplications in our labor pool. And that's just a logical thing that happens whenever you have more people than you need to operate your business. Now, does that mean they should lay off everybody? No, but it does mean it's an opportunity for you to look around and see what's available and see how you could add value somewhere else. That's just common sense. So if there's ever a merger or an acquisition, or your company's even talking that way or preparing their balance sheet to meet the needs of the merger and acquisition market, then keep that in mind, that there is likely an opportunity there for you to be displaced from that organization. It's just, it's going to happen. The other thing I thought about, and this just happened to me this last week, is that there's people making decisions that when the stress is greater than the positive contributions that I can get or make in an organization, then it's time for me to consider searching and looking for something else. So yes, right now, fourth quarter is a good time to look, but then we have to think about our motivations for looking. Because people are going to ask us, why are you looking for work? Well, the stress of my current situation is outweighing my positive contributions. And I feel, it's not a bad idea to always keep my eyes open. I don't think anybody is going to deny that keeping your eyes open and looking around and making sure that you're accessing or have access to opportunities is a bad thing. No, it's healthy to want to have some kind of a, other option available to you. It's just common sense that you would want to have a soft landing in the event that your current situation is not serving your needs. And there's a good time now to do that because, it is a candidate marketplace for the time being. It's not always going to be that way. And there's still competition in the marketplace. So even if it is a candidate market, and even if organizations are capable of hiring in this market, it's still competitive. So the best jobs are still going to candidates that are prepared. And I would certainly encourage you to be prepared. And if you need coaching support for that, that's exactly what I do. So whenever the stress exceeds your positive contributions to or from the company, that's time to start looking. And actually, it's good motivation. It's kind of like self leverage. You're leveraging what might be a difficult situation to your own benefit. So having leverage, having some sort of motivation to say yes to a search, because we know a search is a lot of work. It's there's no doubt in my mind there's a lot of work, but better to do it when you have a job and try to work it into your schedule in some capacity, even if it means burning some of your vacation on a weekly basis for a period of time. Like taking I don't know, take Tuesdays off for a solid month. Then you'd have one day during the week that a lot of people are available that you could do interviews or go network. It would work out pretty well to burn your vacations, some of your vacation time that way, to be strategic about how you do it. So the other thing is a reorg. So I know a lot of organizations, at least that I've come across, they reorg probably every 2 to 3 years. And whenever there's a reorg, there's a shuffling of assets, and it's like musical chairs. It could be a position where you don't have a chair, and now you're under a manager or in a job that doesn't suit you very well. And so whenever you hear somebody talking about reorganization, guess what? That's great timing to start initiating a search. And you just be honest about it. Not overly honest, right? We don't want to be overly honest about a prior employer, because then it might seem like we're bashing our employer, and that's not the case. You just need to be truthful about the fact that, hey, I've worked this thing and there's some talk of reorganization. Not that I'm looking to leave, but I am looking to, get the pulse on the marketplace. And that's not out of bounds to want to have a pulse on the marketplace. Who's going to deny the fact that keeping a pulse on the market isn't a good idea? It is a good idea. And so convince yourself of that. And then, of course, outside of reorganizations and mergers and acquisitions and these things I'm talking about, there is the economics, right? The micro and the macroeconomics that influence corporate decisions or what's happening in the global marketplace. And so, local things, at least here in Oregon, might be things like, I don't know, gas taxes or carbon tax credits, or things that are influencing local decisions. And then there's the macroeconomics like inflation and so forth. So pay attention to these kind of things in your local geography and in the business news, so that what's coming and how that might impact your industry and your company. And we look at the pandemic as a perfect example. The first thing to go was hospitality. So airlines and hotels and restaurants and all these different places that you would typically go were not accessible anymore. And there was a lot of people out of work because of it. So you were impacted. Why? Because of a pandemic that you had no control over. Not that you could anticipate that. The other side of economics is having, emergency funds and things that can give you some financial runway in the event that this does happen. And you want to keep that in mind. Good. So those are my thoughts today. I was just thinking about the best time of year to look for work. Of course, the answer for me is fourth quarter. I think that's the best time to look. It's not the best time to leave. It's the best time to look, because there is no stress. Typically, it's the holidays. People are accessible. They're taking more vacation time. There's holidays built into that. So if you bundle a holiday with a couple days vacation and you get like 3 weeks off, it works out really well for a lot of people to do that. Now, that doesn't mean they're on vacation that whole time. It could be they're doing a staycation, or, they just want some time to go on a silent meditation retreat, and they don't talk to anybody. I don't know what they're doing on their vacations, but, everybody's got their thing. It just means that more people are available and likely to talk to you outside of the workplace. And so that's what we're looking for, opportunities to speak to people outside of the workplace, so we can get the unvarnished truth. Sometimes you're at the workplace and you don't get the unvarnished truth. So let's see if there's any questions here. Terry, of course, if you want to come on, share your insights or perspectives on the topic at hand. The best time of year to look for work, because maybe about some of the the highs and lows, the cycles that happen in recruitment. And maybe that would be something that's helpful to members of this career happy hour. So if you want to come in, you're more than welcome to. Looks like Wendy's here. Good to see you, Wendy. Do you want to come in? You're more than welcome to. Happy Valley. Yeah. what is it? Happy Valley's right next to Gladstone. I find that kind of funny. Gladstone, Happy Valley. Anyway, just a little Portland, Oregon joke. So I don't really have much else to share other than, the weather's beautiful this time of year in Oregon. Get out and relieve some stress, reconnect with families and that sort of thing. Let's see what Wendy has to say here. Wendy says, I agree about fourth quarter because often companies will start recruiting in advance of the new fiscal year. Yeah, it is possible. Now, I've seen the opposite happen too, where companies were recruiting in advance of it and those requisitions were either pulled or discontinued or what have you. And so there were, some false promises made. But yeah, I mean, if that hits for you, great, fish on, land that fish. Absolutely. So not a bad idea to, I think the key is you have to have a line in the water, right? You have to have multiple rods out, sometimes 2 or 3. You have your bait in the water and you're looking to catch a fish. And, if you're not participating in the marketplace, it's that old adage, hey, if you don't participate, you don't get the benefit. So hopefully, Terry, you got the HD camera turned on this time. And I'm going to go through my audio speakers here. So hopefully there's no echo for you folks. If there is, please, of course, let me know. Hey, it's the auspicious Terry Smith.
Auspicious. I mean, you come up with some great words, man. I really appreciate those.
I try my best, Terry, but
you do quite well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, so any thoughts on the topic at hand here?
Yeah, I think you were starting down the several different roads that I was really in agreement with, and particularly the fiscal year thing makes a ton of sense. And I absolutely agree with you that if you're considering timing as a matter of that issue, I mean, I would argue that you would start, like you said, right around the beginning of the third quarter. Excuse me. So right around the 4th of July to now is really a pretty good time frame to really start leveraging the connections you have and making best use of your time in terms of, following up leads from other people and so on, because you're absolutely right. The November, December timeframe is kind of a key window in which those kinds of decisions are being made. And, how many positions are we going to budget for next year, and how many new hires, how many, just all the various elements of the business model that come into play in making those decisions. And the right people in the organization, will have a pretty good window on that. And when I say the right people, people that are managers of staff, people that are, managers of projects and programs and so forth, will have a very good idea of those needs, right? So to the extent that you can start to really engage with people who are, kind of in those streams, I think it makes a lot of sense to do that. The thing I've found is that oftentimes it's kind of, there are companies I've been involved with that have kind of 2 segments. They call it H1 and H2, or they call it, first half, second half. In Japan, it's Kami and Shimo, but the point is that there's always, or not always, but oftentimes sort of a reset at the middle of the fiscal year to say, okay, where have we been? What are we looking like for the remainder of the year? Can we, in fact, because of certain circumstances, blow open some additional requisitions to hire some people because we're doing very well, or because we're, on target plus, or what have you, So another way to think about it is that even if you don't quite catch that fiscal year beginning cycle, there's oftentimes this retro, or this, I'm sorry, not retro, this reset around end of Q2. So,
yeah.
So it's worthwhile to, keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Well, it almost sounds like it's worthwhile as an exercise to actually know the operating principles or processes inside an organization. Like, when do they do the budgets? When do they release the budgets? And what does that
Right.
cycle of organizational operations look like?
Well,
so
that's exactly right. And so as you think about companies that as a candidate, if there are companies that you want to work for, that you want to target as places that you want to operate, you definitely want to learn that material if you can, and it's pretty readily available. I mean, it's not hard to find,
Yeah. Well, if
those
it's
kind of
publicly
basic.
traded, certainly, right?
Right, exactly.
Otherwise, you
So,
can discern it from your network or people that you meet, and
yep.
just kind of.
Yeah, because oddly enough, there are plenty of examples of companies that don't operate on a calendar
Yeah.
fiscal. I worked for a group for a while that operated on July 1 to June 30th, which was aligned more or less with the
Government.
school year, and
Yeah.
we were a school-oriented business, right? So we did a lot of work based on what trends we were seeing in academia that would allow us to say, okay, let's, so it made a ton of sense to operate, on a fiscal year that started right around the same time that a lot of academic institutions start their fiscal years too.
Nice.
So,
Well, maybe this is a good follow-on question then, Terry, because I'm thinking too about talent acquisition, offer processes, and so on. And you've worked in those groups before.
mm-hmm.
How many times have you ever negotiated on, say, a Thanksgiving or between Christmas and New Year's, an offer to onboard somebody?
A lot.
Do you have any stories confidential stories you can share without naming names?
Yeah, actually, so one story that is actually intriguing in this way is that I worked for a company that had a pretty significant software community, and for reasons that I'm still not clear on, for some reason, the bulk of that engineering community kind of took the foot off the accelerator in December, right? They kind of said, oh, gee, to your comment earlier, it's the holidays. I'm going to go chill out, relax, so forth. And not really understand. Well, I don't know how they understood it or not, but there was sort of this disconnect between the fact that there was a huge project lift that started at about January 15th and a huge need to get people in place before January 15th, right? And it was, I don't know what was going on, but all of a sudden everybody came back on January 2nd and said, oh my goodness, we got to hire like a lot of people in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Terry, help.
What are you talking about? Background checks take 3 weeks.
Right. Where were you at Thanksgiving time? Oh, we were home having Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Not a very strategic organization. Yeah.
No, well, not even a very tactical organization, at least
Yeah.
in that particular setting, because goodness gracious, we're only talking about a difference of 6 weeks.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I have coached people and helped them negotiate offers on Thanksgiving Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so these things happen. So it's not like the talent market turns off between, like Halloween and first of the January, right?
No.
Some people think, well, they're not hiring. Nobody hire. We had the same objections in real estate, right? Nobody buys real estate in December or in the holidays. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I was glad that was the thing, because that's when I did most of my working, because nobody else was.
Everybody else
right?
was.
So it's same in the talent marketplace, right? Because everybody else thinks it's not happening. That means if you participate in it, that you're likely to get the benefit of them not being there. You're going to have decreased competition. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think people who are savvy enough to kind of think through these issues are, maybe a little bit ahead of people who don't, right? But Mike, when I've had opportunities to coach talent acquisition people, I've always coached them that use that time to build your pipeline, right? Use that time to make connections with candidates, to build for that beginning of the year, because perfectly well we're going to get at least a percentage of that behavior that I just described, that oh my goodness, it's January 2nd, I need to hire people by January 15th.
Yeah.
So from an internal standpoint, the coaching was always use that time between Thanksgiving and New Year's to really build your pipeline of talented people, because it will serve you well.
Yes. Well, it looks like we have another audience member here that wants to come on live. Wendy. Hopefully, Wendy, there are some settings there. If you see a little gear icon, you want to make sure that your video is set to HD. Otherwise, it doesn't look very good.
By the way, how's mine look?
It looks pretty good. I mean, you look at least 15 years younger than you did last time.
Well, Thank goodness for that.
Well, I think, it's kind of like on Zoom, they have the Botox feature, it stretches out your
Yeah, no, I know.
wrinkles.
I
I
might
think
use
that's
that
one of
every
the
once in
things
a
I'm
while.
still loving Zoom is because they indeed have the Botox feature. So
Right.
Wendy, welcome to Career Happy Hour.
Thank you. This is a new
Hi, Wendy.
experience for me, being on a stream.
Yeah, well, welcome. It's live stream. We're on, I'm on Instagram, so they won't be able to see you, but they'll be able to hear you. And hopefully there's no echo on your guys' side. But we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on LinkedIn all at the same time. So mind what you say.
So
What
we
question?
are broadcasting in the purest sense.
Yes.
We're covering lots of bases.
Yeah. So Wendy, did you have a contribution or a question?
Well, part of it was wanting to experience the streaming environment. I have been working a lot on my website and resume in tandem, and observed that most often I have started jobs either in August or November.
Interesting.
And
do you think
and
that's
I
just
moved around a lot.
coincidence?
I think there is a cycle to it. I think that there's some of it is the fiscal budgeting, and I think that some of it is just a rhythm with retail, and that backs up into consumer products.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So a lot of your history then is in consumer products?
Yep.
Okay. And so are you starting a business or are you looking for work? What's your current status?
I'm kind of two paths. I am considering some roles if they're senior leadership team level within a small consumer product company.
Okay.
I'm also developing a foundation for a consulting business.
Oh, wonderful. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, Terry?
Indeed, it does.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, people with tons of experience in an industry or in a domain can call themselves consultants just by virtue of the volume of experience that they have. And so I'm excited to hear that you're pursuing avenues that could lead you either direction. And, keeping those options open is really a good idea. So good on you for that. How can the Career Happy Hour community help you today, you think?
So I have been beginning the process of networking again, which, as you've mentioned, is difficult. But I'm also intrigued by content and what types of content do the best to support a networking effort.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, always video is great, but from my perspective, sitting here saying, well, what kind of video content would I do?
Yeah.
Is a little bit.
Yeah. And I have a perspective on that. I don't know if you do, Terry, but my feeling is you have to use what you feel is your asset, or what you feel most comfortable with and that you can sustain, because not everybody can sustain doing video every day, or, the production that goes along with it, and the editing, and there's a lot of things to consider and a lot of moving parts when it comes to video. So if your thing is visual, do visual. If your thing is written word, do written word. And if you're good, you're probably going to do a little bit of everything, but you're going to have one that you lean into that's your primary, right? So if you were to look at all the things that you think you're good at and that you enjoy, where do you think you fall in terms of the content production?
It would probably be more in the written.
Okay, so then you're probably doing written word on LinkedIn. You're writing yourself an article on LinkedIn or on whatever sites your audience would be on. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us miss, right? Is that we could create all this great content, but if we're not in the sandbox in which our team is playing, right? We might be playing in the wrong sandbox, and we're not getting the opportunities that we want because we're not reaching the right people. So I'd really encourage you to look at, who really is your audience and where do they hang out? And then you would produce content that's interesting to them, because, it's not uncommon. I've suffered this too, is I like to produce things that are interesting to me, thinking that other people will also find them interesting, but sometimes they're not, right? So I come up with an idea for a live stream on Friday, and when's the best time to look for work, and maybe that's something people are thinking about this time of year, and I hope that it works out. But you won't know that until you look at the analytics afterwards, if it worked out or not, or you can poll your audience, right? So there's things you can do, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
That's very helpful.
Okay.
So Wendy, a question, if I may. Excuse me. What's the market segment within retail? What have you been? What aspect of retail that takes in a lot of ground? What part?
So I've actually worked across several different. I have a lot of experience in food and typical supermarket, specialty, grocery, natural foods. So I've worked across the spectrum in that space. I've also done quite a bit in the DIY space. So, typical things you would find at Home Depot, Lowe's, Farm and Ranch. I've worked with a couple of agricultural companies that have sparked some interest in that space for me.
Yeah. So if you were to think about your number one dream job company, what would that be?
Something that would have a purpose, a higher purpose. So I think of within agriculture, more sustainable farming, more sustainable meat production, things along those lines where there's some higher order benefit to the work.
Got it. And so what companies have you identified that would fit that need?
I've identified a couple of smaller companies that I've looked at. There's a lot within like Raintree and other kinds of water management, possibly even into animal feed.
Got it.
Would
Okay.
be so
if there's anybody watching this stream or any member of the Career Happy Hour community that knows folks in animal feed or sustainable farming, Wendy would want to have a conversation with you. And so that's the benefit, the beauty of this community is that we are open, right? We want to have these conversations, not that we're looking for work. We're just looking for information, advice, and connection to people. That's it. And so if we come to somebody with an ask, I need a job, or I need a marketing opportunity, or I need a contract, or I need, then we go too fast, right? We are coming with too much third base action, if you know what I mean.
So, Wendy, I don't know what you may think of this or not, but so some of the consulting work I've done in the last couple of years has been in the cannabis community. And the cannabis folks, a lot of people in cannabis are really, really looking into, the ways in which they can operate sustainably and productively. And there's a lot of research and science that's going into sustainability in the cannabis industry. And so that, again, it's kind of your call. Some people are, kind of leery of that industry and others aren't, like me. But, that would be a community that might have some interesting, angles for you to think about in terms of how to approach that. Right.
Oh, that's a great
and in fact, a fellow that I know here in the Portland area is, he's a production manager for Grow, and he's very, very remarkable in that space. Some of the technology that is being applied that he picked up on and that he's using, it's incredible. Just unbelievable. Some of the things that are being done, and which have some really, really interesting cross applications in other sustainable food-based industries. There's I want to say it's a Danish company, but I'm not entirely sure that designed this racking system for germinating plants, where you could literally put, small plants that are germinating on these racks that have this very remarkable lighting technology that, encourages high growth with, without the damaging elements of, kind of natural sunlight. Really intriguing technology. And, they've been around for 6 or 8 years doing this. And the company he works for was the very first cannabis company in the US to contract with these guys. And so he built an entire system around that, racking capability. The tech was fantastic. It was just mind-boggling. So, I encourage you to maybe take a look at that, and I'm happy to chat more with you about it if you'd like.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Wonderful. Anything else we can do for you, Wendy?
No, this was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Cool.
Anytime. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Yes, enjoy.
Yeah.
Ping me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Probably.
And as you can see, we're very approachable people.
We're nice
it doesn't,
guys.
honestly, it doesn't hurt to come on here and get some exposure, because you don't know who's watching this session right now, or who might watch the replay. And having that kind of exposure is certainly really helpful. Not to mention that, hey, getting in front of a camera and doing this kind of thing might help you actually do well in an interview, and to think kind of on your feet. It's kind of like going to Toastmasters, I guess, only different.
Not quite as structured.
Yeah. Good. Any parting thoughts here today, Terry?
No, just, I think, if people are really, interested in that thought process around the time of year, I think there's a lot of sort of nuances that are worth, a deeper dive. If people come back and say, gee, it would be great if we talked more about that, I think there's some just, little things like the whole, coaching the talent acquisition people and so forth. So it'd be a great conversation to continue if people are interested in it.
Yeah, so, absolutely. We're always open, right, to ideas or thoughts or topics that, so I got some really good contributions from a member of Career Happy Hour that I think was a little too much to take on in one session, right? So it might be that we take some ideas from what she contributed and we see where it goes from there. So I'm going to look through that here over the weekend and see what we can come up with, because it was some really good stuff.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Thanks, Terry.
Indeed. All right. Thank you.
Good to see you. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Career Happy Hour. Again, make sure you leave your LinkedIn profile in the chat or the comments. I monitor those. So if you have any follow-on questions or any topics that you think might be interesting for us to cover on Career Happy Hour, I would like to hear from you. So thank you. And I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday.